There was some period a few years ago, maybe back when I first came to serve this congregation, when you could ask someone how they were, and the answer would come back, "I'm good, how are you?" I remember the experience of once getting stuck in a kind of loop with someone in exactly this conversation. "How are you?" they asked me, and I reflexively responded, "Oh, I'm good, how about you?" To which they reflexively responded to me, "Oh, I'm good, how are you?" And before I could stop myself, I answered in kind, "Oh, I'm good, how about you?" Eventually, I think one of us managed to get out of the loop by asking something about the weather. How I miss those days. For a few years now, we have been living in the days of what I'll call the "how are you" caveat. On Rosh Hashanah, I spoke to you about the crisis facing our democracy. Last night, I spoke with you about the war in Israel and Gaza and the moral crisis facing us as a people. It has been a heavy year, a heavy 2 years. And even before that, COVID in Pittsburgh and Charlottesville, it's felt like a long time since I could breezily answer a greeting with, "I'm good, how are you?" And of course, I know that for many of you, these crises in our community and in our world have coincided with personal challenges, illness, loss, struggles with our families or our jobs that have made it similarly hard to give a simple answer. So I've noticed that a lot of the times we answer with a caveat lately. "I'm pretty good," you answer me with a shrug and a searching look, all things considered. "Hope you had a great summer," I type in cheery emails, other than the state of the world. I can't quite shake the feeling that we were supposed to be living in some other world. A world where anti-Semitism was a thing of the past. A world where democracy was strong and robust in the United States and in Israel. A world where pandemics happened a long time ago. A world where we had been slow to catch on to climate change, but we were going to fix it one solar panel at a time. I want to live in that world. I want my children to live in that world. I want my only problems to be first world problems. Choose life, our Torah portion commands us today. And wouldn't that be easier to do in a saner world? But here we are, welcoming the new year, 5786, in all its brokenness. It's easy to get overwhelmed or turn to escapism. Some of you have described to me how you get sucked into reading the news or watching CNN all the time, or doom scrolling on your phone every night, becoming more and more anxious all the while. Others have told me how you have simply stopped reading the news because it just got to be too much. But Judaism teaches us that it is possible to live through challenging times with purpose, meaning, and joy. In fact, our ancestors have been doing it for thousands of years, many of them in times that were even more challenging than ours. And in fact, this is exactly the challenge that Judaism aims to help us grapple with. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel lived in challenging times. He fled the Nazis, and he befriended the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. The quest for right living, the question of what is to be done right now, right here, is the authentic core of the Jewish religion, he wrote. This morning, I want to offer you 7 teachings from Jewish tradition that can help us choose life, that can help us live with meaning, purpose, and hope, even in these difficult times. Number 1, the first century sage Hillel said, Al tifros min hatzibor, do not separate yourself from the community. We need each other more than ever now. The COVID pandemic accelerated the trends of loneliness and isolation that were already affecting American society. One recent report showed that we all spend more time at home alone than ever before, and that more time spent at home is associated with lower levels of happiness and less meaning. Social isolation is as big a risk factor for your health as smoking is. And it also threatens our democracy. Even the small interactions that we have with our neighbors, walking down the street or at the grocery store, these are the interactions that help to build the trust that is at the foundation of a free and healthy society. Understandably, fear and despair can turn us inward, make us want to turn away from community. Observers of Putin's Russia have described the way that people began to retreat into their private lives as autocracy began to gain strength. As one journalist described it, the fight against Mr. Putin had been lost, the thinking went, and you had but one life to live. Why not spend it making a cozy home, tending a little garden, shutting out the leaden horrors outside? This breakdown of community, in turn, made it easier for Putin to continue taking people's freedoms away. Judaism has always emphasized that community is at the heart of a meaningful life. We have no ascetic tradition in Judaism. We have prayers that can only be said by a minyan of 10 people. As the title of a book about life in the Jewish shtetls of Eastern Europe goes, life is with people. In this challenging time, we need to push back against the urge to retreat and find ways of leaning into community. This means simple ways of maximizing our interactions with other people. Shopping in person rather than online when we can. Coming to meetings in person rather than on Zoom when we can. Making small talk rather than looking at our phones when we're standing in line. Joining a book club. But it also means pushing past our comfort zones in order to support each other. Showing up to pay a shiva call for someone you've seen at synagogue but don't know that well. Or making and accepting meals from our caring community after a surgery or an illness. And it means supporting those in need in our wider community too. Maybe by hosting dinner for our homeless guests with Family Promise, or packing meals together on Sukkot on Monday night. Number 2, every person is an olam maleh, a whole world, as the Talmud puts it. Listen to their stories. Social media and toxic polarization flatten our perceptions of who people are. It's easy to lose faith in people based on what they post online or how they tell us they voted. But some of what can be so depressing online is more nuanced, more interesting, and more hopeful when we put the effort in to get to know each other's stories. Amid the heartbreaking stories of the crackdown on immigrants, I have found hope in one persistent theme. So many of the people who support tough immigration policies in the abstract feel very different when they know the person being arrested or deported, even if they only learn a little bit about that person's story. In one small Missouri town, residents rallied around an immigrant they knew from the local diner after she was held in detention by ICE. One immigration attorney in Arkansas described the reactions that he received after he shared the story of one of his clients, whose undocumented husband was arrested at a routine immigration appointment. A hard-right MAGA supporter reached out to him, he describes, so he could send money to support the couple. Sometimes it's surprising, he said. People are more complicated than their Facebook posts. The Jewish theologian Martin Buber describes how the experience of being fully present with another person is an experience of feeling God's presence. Maybe what that means is this. We humans are finite beings, but somehow, when we take the time to truly listen to each other's stories, something inside us cracks open, and we are able to escape the suffocating narrowness of our time and access something more expansive. Amidst all the darkness right now, the hope is in our humanity. By sharing our stories with each other, we keep that humanity alive. Lesson number 3. Don't stop speaking about what is right. B'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech. Speak of it in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. The Via Hafta prayer tells us never to stop talking about the Torah, never to stop talking about the path that God has shown us for what is right and good. We are living in a time when it is hard not to grow cynical. But our job in this moment is not to give up on our ideals. It's not to put them aside for another day. Our job is to keep talking about our ideals and nurturing our passion for them. Dr. Oded Adomi Leshem is a professor at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem who has studied hope for 10 years, including traveling all around the world to understand what gives people hope in different conflict zones. I met him in Jerusalem during my sabbatical. He talks about how hope has 2 different components, expectation and desire. Expectation is how likely we think it is that something we hope for will actually come true, how realistic that hope is. Desire is how desperately we want that thing, whether or not we think it is likely to happen. One of the fascinating results of Dr. Leshem's research is how significant desire is in determining outcome. We tend to think of some hopes as merely pipe dreams, while others are based in reality. But it turns out that reality is much less fixed than we tend to think. When people's hope is based in deep desire, he explains, when they truly yearn for the thing that they are hoping for, their attitudes and actions can end up changing the reality on the ground and making the thing that they yearn for more possible. When I was in Israel this winter, several of the community leaders I spoke with reflected on how Israeli pop culture reflects the despair that so many people feel about the prospects for peace. Unlike years ago, when peace was the theme of so many Israeli pop songs, recently, peace has all but disappeared from Israeli popular culture. but the bravest Israeli leaders I met were determined to keep speaking it aloud. In a minute, it will be illegal to say the word peace. Rabbi Yael Vorgan, who leads the Reform Jewish community in the Gaza envelope, the southern region of Israel that was attacked on October 7th, told me. But we are determined to say it, to sing it, to talk about it. Lesson number 4. Rabbi Tarfon used to say, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, velo ata ben chorin lehivatel mimena. It is not your duty to complete the work, but neither are you free to neglect it. The problems of the world right now are so enormous that it's easy to despair. None of us can solve any of these problems alone, and it's not even so easy to figure out how we might solve them together. But the secret to avoiding despair is to remember that none of us can carry this weight alone, nor do we need to. We are asked instead to do our part. A Jew is asked to take a leap of action rather than a leap of thought, Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote. In this time of crisis, it is incumbent upon us to disrupt our regular routine. We have to find a piece of the work of healing this broken world and take it on as our own. Faith is knowing that although the actions we take by themselves are not enough, we do them because we are part of something bigger than ourselves, a chain of people doing their part. Rabbi Rebecca Solnit, author and activist, writes that hope locates itself in the premise that we don't know what will happen, and that in the spaciousness of uncertainty is room to act. When you recognize uncertainty, you recognize that you may be able to influence the outcomes, you alone, or you in concert with a few dozen or several million others. Hope is an embrace of the unknown and the unknowable, an alternative to the certainty of both optimists and pessimists. In March, Beth David's scholar in residence last year, Israeli theologian Rabbi Michael Marmer, told us the story of Maoz Inan, an Israeli social entrepreneur who created a number of tourism initiatives that help to foster responsible tourism and to create dialogue opportunities between Arab and Jewish Israelis. Maoz Inan's parents were murdered in their home on October 7th. Since then, he has become a leading voice for peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Hope is not a feeling that I wait for, he says. I make hope. Hope is a communal endeavor, something we create together. The world is in crisis, and you cannot fix it all. But do not confuse the enormity of the task with hopelessness. The hope is in our actions. Pick an issue you care about and find something concrete you can do. It's okay to start small. The important thing is to get started. Lesson number 5. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. V'yom hashvi'i Shabbat l'Adonai Elohecha. But the 7th day is Shabbat. Shutting out the news and retreating into ourselves isn't a strategy to live well in this moment. We need to find the courage to listen to each other and to act. But we can only sustain that courage and action if we also take time to rest. Judaism came up with the original life hack for avoiding burnout and providing self-care: a day off. The story of creation in Genesis is a brilliant lesson for us. After creating the world, even God had to rest. In 6 days, Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day, God ceased from work and was refreshed, the Torah tells us. The idea of Shabbat was radical in the ancient world. The ancient Greeks mocked us for taking a whole day off. Like the Exodus from Egypt, the very idea of Shabbat is a polemic against slavery. Our worth as human beings is not defined only by what we produce. Do your part, and then make time just to be human. Eat a delicious meal, take a nap, read a great book, take a walk with a friend, come to synagogue and sing. This is how we nurture our souls in tough times. When something is out of balance in our lives, Shabbat is a day of rebalancing, of attending to what we need most deeply. Of course, you can take your rest on any day, but do me a favor and try it out on Friday night and on Saturday. There's something special about syncing up the rhythm of your life to the rhythm of our community and our people for generations and generations. Lesson number 6. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It is good to give thanks to the Eternal One, says the psalmist. The essence of a spiritual life is to be able to see both the darkness and the light of this moment without turning away from either one. It is true that the world is broken in terrible ways right now. It is also true at the same time that there is profound beauty and blessing all around us. The word in Hebrew for gratitude is hakarat hatov, literally recognizing the good. Gratitude is not something we have, but something we do. As Alan Morinis explains, the good is already there. Practicing gratitude means being fully aware of the good that is already yours. The obstacles to appreciating the good can also be very real, he writes, especially when life is riven by suffering. But it is worth the effort to practice gratitude, especially since the one who benefits most from practicing gratitude is the one who is suffering. Judaism has a rich tradition of spiritual practices to help us make gratitude a more regular part of our lives. From blessing each new day to blessing the food we eat, blessing our bodies rather than only complaining about them, blessing the beauty in the natural world that can take your breath away if you stop and pay attention, a blessing for seeing the ocean, a blessing for the first snow, a blessing for flowering trees in the springtime. Giving tzedakah, giving to charity, can also be part of a gratitude practice. Giving tzedakah helps us to focus on appreciating our blessings and on the ways we are able to help those who are suffering. Giving reminds us that even amid the world's brokenness, there are organizations doing brave and tireless work to help make this world a better place. Lesson number 7. Mi yodea im le'et kazot higat lemalchut. Perhaps it was for this very moment that we were built. In the Purim story, Esther becomes queen and is living a relatively quiet royal life. when Mordecai first comes to tell her about Haman's plans for the Jewish people. Esther is shocked. She's not sure she has any power to make a difference, and she is pretty sure she doesn't have the courage to try. In the story of Jonah that we read on Yom Kippur afternoon, the word of God comes to Jonah. "Get up," God tells him. "Go to the great city of Nineveh." Jonah doesn't want to be a prophet. He gets on a ship and heads in the opposite direction. But Mordecai isn't willing to let Esther off so easily, and God won't let Jonah run away either. "Who knows," Mordecai tells Esther, "perhaps it was for this very moment that you have achieved royal position. Perhaps this is the moment you were built for." 3 days in the belly of the whale seems to send the same moment to Jonah too. Esther summons her courage and goes to the king. Jonah found his voice and went to Nineveh. If they could, so can we. We can rise to meet the call of this moment. As my colleague, Rabbi Rachel Timoner, writes, "We do not choose the conditions in which we live, but we do choose how we live in them. The first best thing would be to live in a time of peace and prosperity, freedom, compassion, justice for all. That time has not yet come to the earth. The next best thing is to live in a time that calls you to rise to be your highest self, that invites you to dig deep and find your strength of conviction, that summons you to action for something greater than yourself. A time that is not confusing or muddy, but crystal clear. We are living in such a time, and we are being called. You are being called." May this day of Yom Kippur inspire us to meet the challenges and answer this call. May it be a year of community and a year with people. A year in which we hold our ideals ever present before us and speak them aloud to other people. A year in which we do not let the enormity of the work overwhelm us. May it be a year in which we take the time to nurture our souls with rest and gratitude. May it be a year in which we answer the call to choose life, even now, especially now.